Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the very first of a brand new series of shows called Fit for Purpose, Leadership that Moves People. That's a deliberate play on words. The show is, as I say, a new show where we speak directly with leaders in the recruitment sector, not only in the UK and Europe, but globally. Basically, anyone who has an influence on how the recruitment market is moving, how things are changing in the marketplace, and of course, in light of the current unpleasantness, there are a lot of things that are changing right now. There are many plates up in the air, and we don't really know where they're going to fall. But good leaders are going to plan accordingly and try and make sure that they protect not only themselves and their employees, but their business, their clients, and by extension, the candidates and job seekers out there. So today's very special guest, as you can see, is Jerome Ternynck. Jerome, good afternoon or good morning. How are you?
Good afternoon, Stephen. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. Fantastic. Just woke up here in San Francisco and I got a cup of coffee or tea rather. So I'm ready to go.
I have to ask, standard question. I'm in Britain, so we always do this. What's the weather like in the Bay Area right now?
Well, and I'm afraid the answer in the Bay Area is always the same. It's sunny.
You're making me sick. That's not right. It's not the way it should be. It's not the way it should be at all. So, Jerome, the show's only going to be 30 minutes long, and there are 1,000 questions I'd like to ask you. And maybe when we have either a longer show or when we're sitting with a whiskey in a pub somewhere, we can go over all of those. But we've got a lot that I want to pack into today. I know that you've got a lot of activity on the go. You're a very busy man, and you're running an organization where how many people are there in the SmartRecruiters?
About 300 now.
300. So it's a big organization. There's a lot of mouths to feed, and a lot of clients that are relying on you as well. So can I just, for people who don't know too much about your background, I'll summarize very quickly, but I understand that you started in you were a lieutenant in the parachute regiment in France years ago. So jumping out of a plane then, how would you compare that to in business terms, situation that we are in at the minute?
I think both call for a degree of courage, and they have that in common. Other than that, pretty different. Jumping out of planes, especially in the army, you're like number 35 in line, and everybody's going out of the plane anyway. So there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
Whereas actually here in this case, I think while we didn't choose to be in this situation, we do have a choice of how we respond. And that's exciting, I think.
Yeah. The situation we're in is maybe one that people they haven't gone through the basic training. They might have been 35 in the plane, being pushed out of the door. But it's a bit like having to jump out and then strap on your parachute and work out exactly how to do this. So again, going back to your time coming out of the military, what pulled you into recruitment in the first place?
You know, what put me in recruitment in the first place is my going to Prague. So I was in the military, enjoyed my time there. I was a lieutenant in the paratroops. I was in charge of boot camp. So, taking the young 18-year-old kids from France who'd been drafted in a mandatory service and then turning them into soldiers over 2 months of hardship and friendship, I guess. So that kind of played to my leadership and taught me a lot actually about life. But then I wanted to be an entrepreneur. There's no jobs in France, as is often the case actually. And so I moved to Prague. This is 1992. And right after the Berlin Wall fell, and you could basically do anything there. Like there were no good hotels, there were no good restaurants, there were no advertising agencies, there were no yellow pages. Like you could pretty much do anything you wanted. And I kept asking, like, what can you do here? And people were like, geez, there's so many opportunities here, but my God, it's hard to find good people. And, I was 23. I didn't have any, upfront cash or money to start a business. So I figured, why not start a recruitment agency? And so that's how I fell in recruiting. Just started a recruitment agency in Prague. I didn't speak a word of Czech. And the demand was so great that we got onto a good run, and the rest is history.
It is a very large leap of faith for your first recruitment agency to be your recruitment agency. So you didn't learn the ropes elsewhere and then go and set up your own. So again, you had to write the rule book from the beginning. Touching is the last time I'll mention it, but to what extent does your training in the military inform how you live your life now, and does it or has it given you a mission in life?
You know, it has given me, and I talk about this in my book, it has given me a very raw understanding of how people can be led and transformed. Somewhat scary, actually, to see that you can take, you know, literally a bus full of 40 young kids with long hair and all looking different.
Yeah.
And then you, over 2 months in a boot camp, you just mold them into all being soldiers. It's like the ultimate onboarding session, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of those 2 months, they stand united. They form a group, and if you shout, they straighten up, and they're ready to go to battle for the most case. And that's very impressive to see how group personality, group thinking, purpose are extremely powerful values to actually drive people forward. So I'd say that deep inside, that remains with me, along with a strong sense of empathy, because I got to see people in the French military paratroops they call it a semi-disciplinary environment. So effectively, you're a kid with problems, that if you've done jail time or prison time, or if you have any trouble, that's where you go. So I really got to spend time with amazing people and kids that truly needed help, actually.
Yeah. So you started a recruitment company about the same time I started the first one that I was the owner of in '92. I should say with far more success than me. Mine was fine, but you did extraordinarily well. And so between '92 and 2000, recruitment firms were your thing, but then you got into technology with Mr. Ted. Again, it's a big step from military to recruitment, then recruitment to the online technology. And that would be about the time of the .com boom. With all of that in mind, what compelled you to make that move? What made you think, well, I can make a product here that will make things better?
You know, I think it's often, as is often the case in life, one thing leads to the next. And, you know, by the 97, 98, our agency had grown nicely. We had like over 300 people across Central and Eastern Europe. We were taking bigger and bigger contracts. Big companies, you're like, you know, I'm McDonald's, I need to open 1 store per week. Can you guys arrange it for us? Or, you know, I'm Microsoft, I don't have a TA organization for Central and Eastern Europe. Can you guys take it? Also, we did more and more RPO, which led to actually how do we automate? And then we received a gift, which was called the internet, right? And suddenly we're like, whoa, this is going to change the way people recruit. So indeed, in late '99, I sold my agency and I moved to London actually to start Mr. Ted, backed by Accenture at the time, Accenture Technology Ventures. And we started to build a software for enterprises to track applicants. That actually was a transition. It was a very natural transition for me. I just had to learn how to manage coders, not how to code, but how to manage coders, because there's been a learning curve. But other than this, it's really good.
So in terms of technology, how would you were saying you manage coders, how would you grade yourself on a 1 to 10 of knowing technology? How do you describe your knowledge of the tech?
1.
Really?
I've been a software CEO for almost 20 years now, so I guess I could give myself a 2. But what's interesting here is that I understand the outcome that I want.
Okay.
I know the outcome of the technology, so I can then tell what do I expect the product to do, whether it's features, whether it's actual real outcomes, the metrics, or whether it's just technology, speed, response time, experience, NPS. And by actually being able to, or understanding the outcome, it actually makes you a better leader, right? Because then you don't go into, oh, I have a solution for you, let me do it for you. You
Yeah.
actually say, this is what I expect, this is how I want to get it done.
Yeah.
And over the years, I've really enjoyed my time with our engineers. We have all of our engineering team in Europe, most of them in Krakow, some in Berlin. Our CTO, Alesia, is in Berlin. And whenever I go there, I usually go there for a whole week. I call this my geek week. And it's usually my favorite week of the quarter.
Mm-hmm. So my problem is usually that I can't help myself tinkering with the tech. But when you focus on the outcomes and you focus on what you want to achieve with the technology, this is the input, this is the output, and let the tech guys work out what's in between. You must sometimes come up against the tech guys who say that's just not possible, that can't be done, and you wouldn't have the tools to say, well, I know it can be done.
Yeah, I'm not sure that conversation turns to their advantage, actually. There's a funny comment from my VP engineering as we hired a CTO, Alesia Braga, that started with us in January. And after a month or two, I checked in with my VP engineering, said, how's it going? You have a new boss, and we've been working together since for ages. And he smiled at me and he said, well, Jerome, all I can say is, it's nice to finally have a boss who understands what I do, right?
So is it the case? So I know from experience that for me it was to an extent, and for other companies, that in the early 2000s there were ideas that people would have that just weren't possible with the technology that was around, or that bandwidth hadn't caught up to speed, or that the users just weren't ready to accept products that would do the X, Y, and Z. Are we in a position now where things that you planned and predicted or expected to happen quickly are now coming around? Things that you thought in the early 2000s we would be doing by now. I don't mean flying cars, but in terms of ATS and recruitment technology.
Yeah, I think we've evolved significantly. I mean, in many ways, starting with this little guy here, right? Which brings technology to our lives every day. The consumerization of tech, the availability of computing. We've evolved a lot. I mean, when I started Mr. Ted, my first $1 million of investment went into buying physical servers.
Yeah.
When you think about it, right? Right now, you could actually scale a service to have half a billion users on Amazon without having to pay anything upfront, right? Things have changed a lot. I think specific to our industry, what has changed is when the internet came, we kind of embraced it as like, oh, we're going to be able to track applicants, right?
Yeah.
Which, when you think about it, the very fact that this industry got created as like applicant tracking systems, I mean, even the name is wrong, right? It doesn't say hire amazing people systems, right? Applicant tracking system. So we created a database, we want to track people, we want to ask them questions, and instead of leveraging technology to bring people closer to each other, to make hiring easier, we actually use technology to force on the process, to automate a process in a somewhat compliant manner, which really didn't work. And it's no hazard or no luck that the leaders of this market ended up being Teleo. The founders of Teleo, Louis, came from BAN, a supply chain automation software, right? So they're like moving widgets through a factory floor, is like moving candidates through a process. And I think we've come full circle because in the last almost decade, people are like, wait, if I want to hire great people, what do I need? I need to find candidates. I need to work with the hiring managers to pick the right one, and I need to be organized as a TA function. All right, let me ask you, does my ATS help me find candidates? No, it was never designed to find people, rather track them. Do managers use it every day with a smile on their face? Absolutely not. It was not designed for them. And therefore, are the recruiters happy and productive with all their data in one place? No. So this transition, it's like a generational shift. And the technology is here today to produce amazing marketing-like functionalities with a great candidate experience to attract candidates from various channels, engage in collaboration with the hiring manager in a smooth and collaborative process that actually maximizes the hiring decision in the shortest amount of time. and makes recruiter productive. So the technology has come, I think, full circle to a point where now you can actually have a piece of software that actually makes hiring easy.
From your book, you mentioned your book there, and I've been reading your book. It's chock-a-block with common sense and logic, so I can't fault it there. But it does seem to me that running through the book, there's a thread of your view of recruitment and employment as a holistic endeavor, where everyone involved is a party to what goes on, and that includes candidates as much as it includes hiring managers and employers and the recruiters. So everyone has to be involved. Was there a eureka moment where you realized, well, that's how it should be, or was it a gradual evolution?
No, I think it was a gradual evolution.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's really, really good about starting as an agency recruiter is that you actually are in the business of finding employment for this great candidate that you got.
Uh-huh.
Yes, customers think that you're actually on the other side trying to find a good candidate for them, but as we all know, that's not true. You're actually just trying to sell the candidates you found. And particularly in Prague at the time, where the economy was transitioning from communist to capitalist. So in fact, nobody had no experience in nothing. Like you would have L'Oreal come to us and say, I want a marketing manager with 5 years experience. You'd be like, sorry, nobody's got 5 years experience in marketing in this country. Okay, at least I want somebody who has a degree in marketing. Sorry, universities don't teach marketing here yet. So nobody has a degree. Okay, well, can you give me someone who speaks some English and has a marketing mind? And this is really interesting because we really got into the business of trying to see what people would be good at, what were their aspirations, and what were deeply their attitude, and rather than their credentials. And we always use the adage, you hire for aptitude and you fire for attitude, right? Well, that really taught me to hire for attitude. And I've always considered the candidate at the heart of this. And we all are candidates at some point in our lives, right?
Absolutely. So can I backtrack on something you said there, which actually goes against accepted wisdom, where you said you have a candidate, you go and find a job, you go and find work for them. The accepted wisdom generally amongst recruitment people who maybe started in the agency sector is that we work for the employer pays our bills. Yes, we have to protect the candidate, we have to represent the candidate as professionally and ethically as possible, but we're not in the business of finding people jobs, we're in the business of finding people for employers. And you've said that the other way around. Is that a result of not being trained by another recruitment company before you started your own, or was that simply the way that it was in Prague at that time, or is that more of a European thing? Because that seems to go against what most recruiters would believe to be the case.
Yeah, I think it's a factor of supply and demand, frankly. If the demand is higher than supply, once you find a good candidate, it's easy to find a job for them. It's the other way around. If you have an open job, it's easy to find a candidate. So I think those two fluctuate.
Yeah. So in my experience with, as you'll see behind me, the NORAs, the awards that I run and the Online Recruitment Academy, we're all about looking at things from the candidate's perspective, and we assess job boards, employers, any online recruitment service from the candidate's perspective, and how well things would benefit candidates. Now, SmartRecruiters, fantastic organization, extremely successful. You have clients worldwide, but how does the SmartRecruiters product benefit candidates through your clients worldwide?
Yeah, I think we innovated in a lot of areas. Like when I started SmartRecruiters, so bear in mind I had done an ATS for 10 years, Mr. 10.
Yeah.
And then 2010, I moved to San Francisco. And literally, I got a check from a big investor and a blank sheet of paper. And I go, okay, so in an ideal world, how should this work, right? And then we spent 5 years in R&D before launching our product in 2015. So I really feel super fortunate that I was able to actually do it again, right? But try to do it right this time. I'm sure made a bunch of mistakes, hopefully not the same as before.
To be fair, you had a long track record of success, so so getting investment might be more straightforward for yourself than someone starting from scratch.
Yeah, the repeat entrepreneur factor here is important. And it's true that if you've done something and you want to do it again better, then you're going to do it better, right? So here in candidates, we innovated by really putting the candidate experience at the heart of it. And we fought a bunch of battles. Like, for example, we said when a recruiter in SmartRecruiters reviews a resume, we're going to tell the candidate, someone at company name viewed your profile.
Yeah.
Oh my God, right? So this is the number one ask of candidates. They say, please tell me somebody's looked at my resume. It doesn't make up. But on the other side, recruiters were like, whoa, what is, right?
Yeah.
And I actually found myself at the very end of a sales process with a Fortune 500 company. It's early in SmartRecruiters. This customer is really important for us. And I said, and they're like, you need to switch this off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sorry. If you think we should switch this off, then I guess you're picking the wrong vendor.
I have to say, I love the bones of that. I've been talking about this very thing for years, where a candidate should know who's looking at their CV. A candidate should know, well, you know, if I've shared my information, has it gone into the black hole? Is it a mystery until someone approaches me? Or, you know, if anyone opens my file, surely even now with GDPR, I think I'm entitled to know, even if nothing came of it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And generally, I think we've tried to bring more transparency to the process. And transparency can be scary, but it's also very beneficial. And you talk about privacy, and diversity is right there, right? We all know the amount of discrimination that goes on in recruiting, whether we like it or not, right? Even at the resume, or especially at the resume screening, then behind closed door in interviews. And, you know, there is a tendency to go to anonymization, like let's anonymize resume. And, you know, before you know, you go to an interview with a mask on, right? Because we cannot see your face during the interview. Like this is completely the wrong direction, in my opinion. So instead, we made it transparent. We encourage candidates to put a picture on their profile. We encouraged transparency in the process. We encourage hiring managers to come into the system in collaboration with managers. We encourage the formation of hiring teams. We encourage the interview scorecards that are actually viewed by the rest of the team, but only after you put in your own review. So there is no bias. And then suddenly what happens? Well, it becomes really, really hard to discriminate, right? If everything is transparent, because, you know, you got to have a good reason. And your bias, which we all have, human bias, right? We both play golf. We're going to like each other more than if you've never heard of anything that I like. So this is normal. And the human bias and discrimination goes away in transparency and collaboration. We've been fighting hard for that, and we'll continue to do so.
I absolutely agree. My view is that a lack of information is what leads to bias being more important, more assertive. If the only thing I knew about you, for example, was your name, then I might assume, Jerome, that sounds like a strange name, or Ternynck. I don't know any Ternyncks. If someone was looking at my CV and they only saw the name, first of all, they might think, well, that's a bit of an Irish name. We don't like Irish people. And you would have a bias there. But if you have all of the other information, and we always try and teach recruiters to be more adult and more intelligent and sophisticated. So the more information they have, the less sway any of those factors that would introduce bias have in our decision making. If we can see that you know, this candidate has all of these other things that make them a fantastic match for the job, then a name that we don't recognize is going to be the thing we're thinking about least. So that transparency, I have to agree, it's a good thing. It's a difficult thing, and yes, people have to be educated, but transparency is education, because you learn more and more. More information makes everyone cleverer.
I don't think anybody wants to be bad intentionally. I don't think Nobody wants to discriminate intentionally. I mean, you're in the 1% of population, right? So if you make it transparent, if you make it obvious, people are like, oh yeah, you're right, right?
Yeah.
And that collaborative hiring is one of the toughest nut to crack because managers are like, yeah, send me a resume, I'll let you know how it goes, right? But if you actually try to create proper hiring teams with proper scorecards, and you include peer interviewing in there, the people that are asking different questions, and you have the scorecard together, which is a hiring methodology that's very popular in many organizations nowadays, then discrimination goes away. And by the way, you end up making better decisions because you actually now have the wisdom of the crowd on candidates as opposed to your biased opinion, whether you liked it or not.
You speak in your book a lot about collaborative hiring, about that partnership between all the parties, and as much that hiring managers and employers have a job to fill and there are specifications that are required for that job, you recognize that in the hiring process and the interview process, the candidate has a view as well. The candidate is interviewing the employer as much as the other way around. And you need to make sure that the candidate has all the information upon which to then make an informed decision whether to accept an offer or not. It's not just that you can't just assume that because a candidate has applied that they already want the job. They don't want the job yet. They want to know more about the job. They're interested, but you still have to sell them on this position, and it's a two process. So
that was actually one of my first industry-changing move. When we launched SmartRecruiters, the apply button doesn't say apply; it says I'm interested. Customers are like, wait, but so at what point do they apply? And by submitting their interest to a job, legally they're applying. This is a compliant applicant tracking. Don't worry about this. The point is, they're interested. Let's have a chat rather than formally apply, right? And just taking this away opens up for a better conversation, and actually, frankly, doesn't scare the top 5% of candidates who actually aren't going to apply. You're going to apply to them. Is how this works, right?
Candidates, when they see apply now, they see that as taking a big step. But if they say I'm interested, then they're essentially saying, look, tell me more. You've got my attention. I need more information to go on, but tell me more. I have to say in French, c'est parfait.
Parfait.
So moving on to the current unpleasantness which we're all going through right now. Every company in the world is being impacted by the current health crisis. Some are benefiting from it, as we know, but most are suffering, and some are really suffering badly. We know the numbers that have come out in terms of people that have been either furloughed or laid off, who are signing up for unemployment benefit and so on. Many chief executives, many CEOs are and have paused before responding. They've not responded quickly. They're waiting somehow to take the lead of others and see, well, how are the cards going to fall? But I know that you've moved quickly to manage the situation, to communicate with your staff, and to be as transparent and as honest as you can. Can you tell us a little bit about how that has transpired, how that has played out in your organization?
Yeah, it has played out well. I mean, I think in times like this, as I was saying earlier, we didn't choose to get into this situation, but we do choose how we respond. And at the leadership level, in times like this, you have to lead boldly. I firmly believe that. And I'm a very empowering leader. So I'll come to you and say, no, I would like to do this. Tell me what you think. Come up with a plan. Fine. In wartime, I'll come to you and I'll say, this is what we're going to do. And you have 2 days, right? So you lead boldly. You're like, there's no more time for conversation. Someone needs to make the decision and needs to make the decision quickly. So I believe that actually moving fast. And the other thing is, in crisis lies opportunity, right? Never let a good crisis go to waste, as my grandfather would say, having gone through a number of crises. We defined a 3-point action plan for us early on. This is like 3 weeks ago. We said, 1, we're going to protect our business. 2, we're going to unite our customers. And three, we're going to improve our leadership on the market, demonstrate leadership on the market. And then against that, we first took care of our employees, committed to no layoffs, zero layoffs during this entire crisis. We moved everybody obviously at home, which is not too hard for us because everybody's laptop based anyway. So that kind of went fine. We assessed the situation there. Then we launched the Smart Cafe, which is really nice. Actually, it's becoming a venue with so it's a Zoom room that's open 24/7, and then you have events that are happening there. Whether it's a town hall or it's a puppy night or it's Friday drinks or it's a serious topic or it's a customer coming to talk to us, and that kind of united or brought people together.
It's really important for employees to be able to socialize as well as work.
Yeah. But then we said, all right, it's not just cute, let's socialize, show me your puppy, right? We said, what are we going to do about this? And actually, as a Smartian, we call ourselves Smartians, what are you personally going to do about it, right? And I think this is a perfect opportunity to rethink the way we do business. And so I've actually created an internal project that's called Project Smarter, where I've asked the entire org to come up with whatever is the one process, the one thing that they hate in the company that's really waste of time, not scalable, they don't like it, bubble it up. And now we're actually busy killing one bad process per department. And we'll come out of that, and I guarantee you we'll come out of that much stronger, because at this point in time, nobody questions that we need to change. So people are way more interested in change right now, and it's interesting. And this may be like, oh, I don't know, our expenses, they take 4 weeks to be reimbursed because finance is a stupid process. All right, great. Well, why is that happening? Oh, change it, okay? So simple things or bigger things, obviously. But that was one, protect our business. Second, we moved heavily on our customers and we offered free certification. So we're actually getting hundreds of recruiters certified on SmartRecruiters. Normally like a $2,500 certification course, you get a diploma and so on. We're doing this online for free.
Of course, if there are more people that are SmartRecruiters certified out there, and we know that TA people move around, then wherever they go, obviously they're a walking advert for SmartRecruiters. That's a good thing. Yeah.
So and then we launched a hiring success masterclass, so you can actually train in hiring success. We launched regional user group for Zoom, so we have like 40 different regional user groups happening. We really stood by with them, and we're launching a redeployment platform to help them actually cope redeploying their internal talent, internally or externally, as it happens.
So you were talking about being bold as a leader. Does that mean if you have doubts that you keep them to yourself? You don't want to put doubt out there amongst your colleagues, or do you wait until you're sure about your doubts before you share them?
You can't be sure. I mean, nobody knows where this thing is going, right?
Yeah.
So I do a risk assessment, and then at some point you say, okay, this is what we're going to do, and then you live by your decision. I think clarity is more important than the actual decision. Sure, you could make the wrong decision, make a mistake, it's going to cost you some money or sometime whatever. Yeah, of course. But the lack of clarity will for sure stall everybody. And I encourage people on the market actually to do the same. I was talking to a customer or a prospect at the time last week. And this person said, so I was calling in, we're in a project, so how's this going to happen? They have 100,000 employees worldwide, everything shut down, and they're in a process to replace their ATS. And I said, so are we still moving forward? What's the situation? And this person said, look, Jerome, if we don't use this period to actually profoundly transform our business, then we're missing out on a big opportunity. And I think he was right. Right, the one thing that TA leader did not have in the last decade almost, the one thing they did not have is time. You just didn't have the time, right? Just busy filling recs.
And what do we have now?
We have the time.
Yeah.
Right. So what are we going to do with that time? So we're actually seeing a good amount of movements on the market, and a lot of TA leaders stepping up to say, all right, I'm going to nail the CRM campaigns. I'm going to revamp my interview scorecard. I'm going to upgrade my ATS. Just use time.
If we know anything, we know that things are going to change. They've already changed, and you're either part of making it change, or it's going to be changed for you. So going back to your leadership, would you say that it was instinctive to move fast, to be clear, to make a plan and put that out, or did you need a bit of time to pause and absorb before taking that out there? So was it instinctive based on your experience from before that you have to move forward and you have to do something, or did you take the time to then be more measured in that?
I mean, I obviously take the time to think about the decisions. We created an emergency response team in the company. I engaged my top leaders, and so there's a whole process to get to actually what do we do. But the overall plan, I think, was already clear in my head before. I went through 2001. I went through 2008. Maybe the gray hair or lack thereof helps here at some point, but for me, it's clear. I say, okay, this is what's happening. Most organizations in hiring freeze, they're going to need to redeploy their talent. Candidate volumes are going to 10x. This whole thing, like, I can see how this will work.
So given that any organization, maybe once every 10 years or faster than that, whether it be 2008, 2001, now, and so on, should organizations and leaders always be ready for a crisis and have a team in mind or a plan in mind, or would that lead to undue caution? Should you run your business whilst physically running it the whole time, or do you need to have that emergency plan always in your back pocket for when things go wrong?
I think you need to be ready. I mean, if you drive a car, you know where the brake is.
Yeah.
Especially if you drive really, really fast. Right?
Yeah.
So I would say that the faster you drive, the more aware of where the brake is you should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And lastly, I've noticed we've gone a little bit over time. As an organization providing technology specifically for the hiring process, how do you stay in tune with the needs of candidates? Because those needs and wants and desires are changing, and they'll be changing quite a bit right now.
Yeah, they will. We see millions of candidates come through our platform, of course, on a monthly basis, and that's before the crisis, right? So I expect that number to 2, 3, 4, 5x this month. We stay in touch with candidates by really looking at how their process goes. We have a data team that actually looks really like end-to-end, and we're in a fortunate position that we actually see the entire candidate journey from where they came from all the way to how they got hired or not across all of our customers. And so we use this data. We have a very, very data-driven approach, and our relationship with candidates historically has been very strong. So we get very high NPS, people giving us kudos, and we're going to continue to invest in making sure that the world for candidates is easier and easier. If I may, I'll leave our audience with one thought. Okay. When you're done listening to this, do me a favor, go back to your ATS and please answer to all the candidates that have applied yesterday or last week, right? Because if you have left your jobs open, whether you are hiring or not, if you've left your jobs open, your candidate pipe is growing. And these people are at home, fingers crossed, waiting for you to answer. Just go in your ATS and say to everybody, sorry, we're in a hiring freeze. Sorry, we're going to get you back in 1 month. Just whatever you need to say, but don't let them hang it. Great thought.
Perfect thought to end on. Jerome, it's been an absolute pleasure. I know we've met each other a few times over the years, but we never really had much of an in-depth talk. So I hope this has certainly started that, and I hope we do so more again. Good luck for the rest of the day in sunny San Francisco. You make me feel terrible, and good luck for all the Smartians out there, and of course the clients. If anyone has any follow-up questions and they want to contact you, what would be the best way to do that?
LinkedIn. I'm a pretty regular user on LinkedIn. Send me an invite there, and I'm always happy to connect. So.
Fantastic. Again, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks everyone who's been watching online, either live or on replay, and everyone who's commented in the comment column there. We will be back again, hopefully next week. We don't have a guest lined up so far, such as the way the world is right now, but it's going to be another cracking guest. We're going to have to go some to top Jerome, but thank you very much for watching. Thanks, Jerome, and we'll leave it there. Au revoir.
Au revoir. Have a good day.
Good day.